Welcome to Boost Coding Flow channel. In this tutorial we will show you how we can create multiple chatroom channels. So you can have a few chatrooms that contain different topics according to the user's need. So every users can find or share some information based on the topics that's sorted by the channels. By the clean and simple interface, the users can easily find the specific forum, then give feedbacks and opinions. Please ensure that the name of the HTML file that we use to deploy the project is written between double quotes on doGet function code. Please ensure that the name of the sheet that we use to store the chat data is written between double quotes on getMessages function code. This line starts a loop that tells the computer to repeat a set of actions for every row in the data array. But it specifically skips the very first row, which is usually the header row containing titles like timestamp, username, and messages. It does this by starting the counter variable I at the number 1 instead of 0, which is the position of the first row of actual data. The loop will continue as long as the counter I is less than the total number of rows data length, and after each repetition, it increases the counter I by 1 to move on to the next row. For each row I, the code checks if both the second and third columns represented by indices 1 and 2 in the array contain a value. If both cells are not empty, it combines their text into a single string formatted with a colon and pushes this new string into an array called messages1. This function is called postMessage and it requires 3 pieces of information to run: a chatroom number, a username, and a message. The function first checks if both a username and a message were provided. If either is missing, the function stops immediately. It then locates the specific worksheet named chatroom within the active spreadsheet and creates a new timestamp. If the chatroom number provided is 1, the function finds the next available row starting from cell A2 and writes the timestamp, username, and message into the first 3 columns, A, B, C, of that row. If the chatroom number is 2, the function finds the next available row starting from cell E2 and writes the same set of data into the 3 columns beginning with column E, F, G. To modify this code to create another chatroom, you would add a new conditional statement, such as else if chatroom = 3. And then instruct it to find the next available row in a new starting column, for example, column I, and write the data into the 3 columns beginning at that new location. This HTML code creates a tabbed interface with 2 clickable tabs labeled Chatroom 1 and Chatroom 2. The first tab has the active class, meaning it is the currently selected tab. When a user clicks on a tab, it triggers the !switch chatroom function, passing the corresponding chatroom number as an argument. To modify this code to create another chatroom, you would add a third $div element with the class chat tab, and set its !onclick attribute to call !switch chatroom 3. The text inside this new div would be updated to reflect the new room, such as chatroom 3. This HTML code defines a visible chat container for chatroom 1, identified by the ID chat container 1. Inside it is a box for displaying messages and an input area with fields for a username and a message, plus a button that calls the sendMessage function with the argument 1 when clicked. To modify this code for another chatroom, you would duplicate this entire block and change all the numerical identifiers from 1 to 2. This means updating the container's ID to chatContainer2, the message box's ID to chatbox2, and the input field IDs to username2 and message2. Finally, you would update the onClick attribute of the send button to call sendMessage2. For each chatroom, the function performs a multi-step formatting process. It starts by checking if message data exists. If it does, the function takes the single, long string of messages, where each message is separated by a new line character, and splits it back into an array of individual message strings. This code handles sending new messages and keeping the chat updated. The sendMessage function is triggered when a user clicks the send button. First, it retrieves the values from the username and message input fields for the specific chatroom. It then performs a validation check to ensure both fields are filled out. If either is empty, it shows an alert to the user. If both fields are valid, it calls the Google Apps script postMessage function on the server to save the new message to the spreadsheet. Upon successful completion, it triggers the Fetch Messages function to refresh the chat display and clears the message input field, ready for the next message. Finally, the code initializes the chat by calling Fetch Messages immediately when the page loads and then sets up an automatic refresh every 2 seconds, ensuring the chat display stays current with new messages from other users. Hope this tutorial helps you to create a simple code of Google script yet powerful to fulfill your web system's need. Please stay tuned on Boost Coding Flow channel.